If Europe doesn't rebuild its defense system soon, it may be too late.
Before we can project strength abroad, we must renew at home.
Pan-European defence projects, such as France and Germany's joint fighter jet project and the EU's drone defence initiative, are stalling due to contractor tensions and disagreements over procurement.
How can a continent this rich be this unprepared?
Europe spends hundreds of billions on welfare, pensions, and all the comforts of modern life. But when it comes to defending itself, the cupboards are almost empty. For decades, the continent has counted on the United States to step in if things went wrong. But what if Washington decides it won't? With wars burning at the borders, new threats popping up, and American patience running thin, Europe is staring down a question it's been avoiding for far too long. Can it really protect itself? Or has it built a system so weak, so fragmented, that even trillions in wealth can't buy real security? Europe's biggest challenge is underinvestment in defense.
All NATO nations to increase defense spending to 5% of GDP.
The US recently told European countries to spend way more on defense, about 5% of their entire economy. To put that in perspective, most of them are barely managing 2% right now, and out of that 5%, the majority has to go straight into weapons, tanks, fighter jets, and missiles. Why is America pushing so hard? Because if a big war broke out tomorrow, Europe wouldn't be ready. Its armies are too small, its factories too slow, and its weapons production is all over the place.
All European defense companies combined can by far not produce enough weapons and ammunitions to keep up with what Ukraine needs on the battlefield. And it gets even more embarrassing for Europe's defense industry. Ukraine on its own now produces more weapons and ammunition than all other European countries combined.
At first, you might think the solution is simple. Just buy more weapons. But here's the problem. It's not that easy. Take the US Patriot missile system, for example. If Europe orders one today, the waiting time is about 7 years. That's how backed up American factories are. And if the US is busy fighting its own battles somewhere else, do you really think they'll make Europe their first priority? Probably not.
The U.S. hit 3 nuclear sites in Iran overnight.
The Trump administration is reportedly getting ready to attack military installations inside Venezuela.
That means Europe can't just keep writing checks to American defense companies and expect to be safe. If Europe stays dependent, the next crisis could leave it waiting in line for weapons while the enemy is already at its door. The obvious fix to this problem is produce weapons at home, yet that only exposes another obstacle. Unlike the US, which has a few giant companies making standardized tanks, jets, and helicopters, Europe has dozens of smaller firms, all making their own versions. The result? Europe ends up with 6 times as many different types of major weapons as America. That might sound like variety, but in war, it's a nightmare. Different systems mean different parts, different training, and a lot of wasted money. Why is it like this? Because every country wants its own national champion. France protects its companies, Germany protects its own, Italy does the same, and so on. Working together across borders is rare. This is why even Europe's biggest defense companies, like Thales in France, Leonardo in Italy, or Rheinmetall in Germany, still look small compared to American or even Chinese giants. In short, Europe has the brains and the money, but instead of one strong defense industry, it has a patchwork of smaller ones competing with each other, and that weakens everyone. But Europe's defense isn't just divided, it's paralyzed.
The security situation does not look good. It's undoubtedly the worst in my lifetime, and I suspect in yours too.
$39 trillion sits idle in savings accounts while its armies run short on weapons. The problem is that most of this money just sits in banks or low-risk deposits, and when it comes to defense, many investors simply don't want to touch it. There's a stigma. Some banks and funds think investing in weapons looks bad, or they're scared of public backlash. Even the European Investment Bank, the EU's own financial powerhouse, banned defense investments for more than 20 years. Only recently did it ease up slightly, but even now it still won't directly fund weapons or ammunition. But now it can support projects that have both civilian and military use, like high-tech drones or radar systems. That might sound small, but it's a signal. If big institutions like the EIB start backing defense projects, private investors could follow. Because at the end of the day, investors don't just want profit, They want safety too, so Europe has the cash, trillions of it. But instead of being used to build security, it's locked away, treated like defense isn't worth investing in. Until that mindset changes, Europe will keep looking rich on paper, but weak on the battlefield. The message is clear. Europe has to make defense investing normal, not shameful. Only then will private money flow into the industry and give Europe the firepower it needs. Even if Europe fixes the stigma around defense, there's still another issue: how money actually moves in the economy. In Europe, around 75% of business funding comes from banks, and only 25% from capital markets. And here's the problem. Banks are slow, cautious, and hate risk. Private investors, on the other hand, are fast, risky, and aggressive. Exactly what you need in wartime when new technology has to be tested and deployed quickly. This mismatch slows Europe down. A new defense startup might have a brilliant drone design, but banks won't back it until it's safe and proven. By then, the war could already be lost. Meanwhile, in America, a private venture capital firm could pour in money immediately, betting big on the chance that the startup becomes the next defense giant. That risk-taking is how new industries scale fast, and Europe's weakness here is glaring. Its venture capital industry is 6 times smaller than America's.
Traditionally, in Europe, a lot of the deal sizes have been smaller and the fund sizes have been smaller.
So, Europe might have money, but its financial system isn't built for speed, risk, or innovation. Exactly the things modern wars demand. Even if the money problem could be fixed, there's still a bigger obstacle: politics. Europe isn't one country, it's 27, and when it comes to defense, they rarely agree. France wants its own vision, Germany has another, Poland pushes for NATO, while Hungary often blocks consensus. This fragmentation makes joint action painfully slow. Imagine trying to build a fighter jet program, where every country wants its factories to get the jobs, its engineers to design the parts, and its generals to have a say. By the time Europe agrees, America or China is already years ahead. And then there's the uncomfortable truth. Many Europeans simply don't want to spend big on the military. Politicians fear backlash if they propose higher defense budgets. Voters still expect peace to be permanent. So while the threats are growing, Europe's leaders are stuck in endless debates, unable to turn promises into power. In geopolitics, hesitation is weakness, and Europe can't afford it. So what does the future hold for Europe? The continent has the money, the technology, and the brains to defend itself. But only if leaders act boldly. Creating a unified defense industry, opening up private investment, and building fast, flexible funding systems could transform Europe's armies almost overnight. Startups could innovate like never before, factories could produce cutting-edge weapons, and the continent could finally stop relying on others for protection. But there's no magic wand. These changes require political will, cooperation across borders, and a willingness to take risks. Without that, Europe will stay stuck, rich but weak, powerful on paper but vulnerable in reality. The clock is ticking. The question is simple, yet terrifying. Will Europe rise to the challenge and secure its future, or wait too long and pay the price when conflict comes knocking?